All right, the first narrative I'm starting with is Russ going to the Nuggets. I think this is interesting. I didn't know what team he would end up on. It felt like the Clippers vibed with him. Who was co-signing him on the Clippers is kind of what I want to know. I think it was Paul George. I think if he had signed with the Clippers, they would have extended him or they would have figured something out. I think Russ would still be there. I think the Nuggets are trying him out. And I watched it wasn't media day, but I watched whatever press conferences they were having there in Denver, where Mike Malone and Russ were both talking about him. And I found it, here's the thing with any of those media interviews, they're all kind of useless, right? Nobody says anything good. They all say the same things. Do you remember when that football commentator said that when she does the in-game interviews, sometimes she makes stuff up? She says, the offensive coordinator said we got to get back. We got to make sure we're, paying attention to what the play is. We got to make sure that we're hearing the audibles and we're doing it. She basically repeated everything that every offensive coordinator has ever said during a halftime interview. Because it doesn't matter. They all say the same things. They're not going to give away their offensive strategy or their defensive strategy. So I think the same thing with the Nuggets interview. They're like, what do you think of Westbrook coming in the team? Oh, I think he's going to bring in great energy. I think he's going to be bringing in great leadership. We did a workout yesterday, and the vibe and the energy was just different in the building. I couldn't meet the person that would hear that and think, wow, I'm so excited. I was worried he'd not bring energy. I was worried that he'd come in and he would change the energy negatively, and Mike Malone would say that. No one ever does. So when I heard this seems like the most fluff thing I've ever heard. I don't think they're on the same page. I've got a feeling that they're not communicating at all. This is incredible speculation, but it just felt to me like they were saying the things you're supposed to say. So when you look at it on paper, it looks good. You're like, man, these guys... Mike Malone is really psyched to have Russ on the team when you look at it on paper. But when you see the interview, you're like, nobody said anything. They just said the boilerplate, yeah, we're excited to get him in there. We're excited to get to practicing, working on our schemes. I think this is going to be really good. We're going to use him off the ball. Hopefully we can get some energy, use his style of play. And you're like, yeah, okay. No one's coming in saying anything negative. Like, yeah, we worked out yesterday and it wasn't vibing. I'm going to be honest, it wasn't working out. Russ was, he was trying to run really fast and run down the court and wasn't dishing out to guys, and it was rough. I don't know how this is going to go. I know we signed him to a 2-year deal and a player option at the end of that one, so we're lucky it was a vet minimum. That would be so refreshing, because part of me thinks like we should just have AI, artificial intelligence, just come in and do everything for those media conferences, because we already know what they're going to say. No one's going to ever say truth. I think this is going to be a nightmare. He's on a league minimum. It's a player option, which is probably something that he asked for. And again, I'm not trying to be a hater on Russ, but dude, there is just a misunderstanding of who he is in the league now. I don't know. I saw an interview. This was on Reddit. It's a video interview, and he's saying, yeah, when I was at the Clippers, I didn't really get to play my position. I wasn't getting a chance to really do what I do over there. So you could tell there's a little bit of like, hey, yeah, I'm not the reason that team failed. And now I'm going to be my last boyfriend, yeah, he didn't treat me right. It's the same thing. We do it all the time, just as human beings. So when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, this seems good. Every team you start with, it's going to be all smiles, and wow, we're going to really do a lot of transition, and he's going to really bring a lot to the table. And Mike Malone's talking about leadership-wise, and I don't think that's how Russ sees himself. I think he sees him as a point guard that is potentially going to start games this year. I'm not wrong. I'm not. This is not a hot take. Everyone knows this is the truth. I don't know why I'm getting so worked up about this, but maybe it's something, I don't know. This is going to be bad. This is going to be real bad. Of course, I did say that I thought the Clippers were going to cut Russ. And who knows, maybe they wanted to. I don't know. But they're lucky this is a vet minimum contract, and the NBA pays for vet minimum contracts anyway. It's $3 million. It's not that big a deal in the NBA. But the thing is, the Nuggets aren't paying most of that contract. Make it a player option. We'll probably cut him anyway. I think that's what's going to happen. There's a clear misunderstanding of what Russell Westbrook's role is going to be on this team. Even Calvin Booth was saying he's going to be a leader. Ooh, this is going to be bad. I'm not a hot take guy. I don't like predicting in the NBA, but I like analyzing relationships and seeing when people are on different pages, when people are speaking the same language but not communicating. And this is my number 10. This is my number 10 on the list because I'm so excited about it. This is why I watch the NBA. I watch the NBA for conflict. And this is going to be fraught with conflict. We'll see what happens, though. I'm done talking about. I'm interested in Ja Morant's return. I was really disappointed that he hurt his labrum last year. And one thing, I'm very concerned when a guy gets hurt and it comes out after the game that he needs to sit for an extended period of time after the game when there wasn't an incident. It's always very concerning to me because if it's a freak incident, you kind of chalk that up to that's life. People step on each other's feet and roll their ankles, right? Freak things happen. Guys knock guys out of the air, and that's the way it goes. It's outside of anyone's control. But when there's no incident, it just later that night, it's like he's hurt for 5 months. Like when? When did that happen? Over the course of the time in the game and maybe previous games, you're sort of like, oh man. It makes you like think about AD. When you watch AD, you're watching him play and you're thinking, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. Every time he falls, you're like, oh, he's up. Thank God. He's up. But if you have a player where you're thinking, I hope things are going well internally in his joints. He's not falling down, but I'm still worried that whatever he's doing out on the court, he's getting hurt just by playing. I find it very concerning when players are hurt and there isn't an incident. But what are you gonna do? He's back, and I hope he's ready to rock. I watched what was it? The Hall of Fame induction at Murray State. He did a speech. He said, "Hey, you all had the option of not supporting me and not staying with me and not being a fan during all this, but you stuck around, and I'm happy for that." And that meant a lot to me because it showed that he was apologetic and he wished he regretted his behavior, and he was also willing to say, I might not have stuck around for a guy like me either. And I can understand that if you didn't. But you stayed, and I'm grateful for that. I think that takes a lot of maturity to look at it from the perspective of other people and what they see and say, thanks for sticking around, because I know it wasn't easy. I really thought that was cool. I watched that the Nike commercial is kind of good. It's I'm back. I'm a homegrown boy. Very family, very focused on who he is as a person, and there's a lot of cuts of his dad and his extended family around him. Really doing the angle, Nike is really doing the angle of Ja Morant is family. Not bad. I don't mind the branding. Do you remember that T. Morant? T. Morant is Ja Morant's dad, and he is vocal. He's very vocal about his son and his son's suspension last year. And he did an interview on Sirius XM that the dad was coming out of him really hard. You could tell that he wanted to take responsibility for his son's actions in some way and acknowledge that, yeah, my son shouldn't have been doing that. But there was a lot of he was like, what has he done illegal? Did he do anything illegal? And then he dialed it back. He said, yeah, but you committed a crime against your kids who look up to you. You're like, okay. So he kind of criticizes the NBA for suspending him. And then he dials it back. And he's like, but he did, he shouldn't have done that. And then the other thing he says is, the face of the league, other faces of the league have done worse things, so why is he getting the suspension? Here's the thing about apologies and taking responsibility. What you have to do is you take responsibility for the thing you did wrong. And that's it. That's all you can do. No one is ever entirely in the right. No one's ever entirely in the wrong. it's always somewhere in the middle. There's always someone to blame. There's always a little bit to blame on yourself, because you have to blame yourself for the situation you put yourself in, and that's hard to do. But you have to look at yourself and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I might be the victim in this story, but there were a lot of decisions I made along the way that put me in that place, and I need to acknowledge that. That's all you can do. You can point the blame on you, and if other people want to put the blame on themselves, they have to do it themselves. You can't point it back, because otherwise, no one cares about your apology. I'm very curious about this. Remember he fought a mall cop and beat up a 17-year-old that was at his house playing pickup in the backyard? Very strange story. And I don't feel like we know a lot. I don't know a lot about Ja Morant and who he is as a person. So I'm very interested in the story, because I don't know who the guy is. He seems to have changed. He seems apologetic. We haven't heard much about him lately, which is a good thing. No news is good news. Staying out of the news. But we do know he's a great basketball player. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, the health of Embiid and PG. I love that these two guys ended up on the same team, and they're going to be there for 3 years at least together. That's great. I love it, because both of these guys get so much guff for their playoff performances. And if we got them both together, it's just going to be fun. Here's the thing. It's fun to make fun of these guys. They're people. I'm sure if I was their friends or their family and some dork on YouTube was making fun of them for not staying healthy, calling me a loser for spending my time criticizing them, I would understand and say, yeah, you're right. But this is where I find joy, I'm sure they're both great guys. I'm sure they both donate to charity. They're awesome dudes. And it probably, if they were to come across a video of someone criticizing them, would hurt their feelings. I'm okay with that. I'm not judging their character. I'm just saying they do have a mental block when it comes to the playoffs. Some players can turn off that block and perform. To take what they've done and they've rehearsed and execute during the game and take the context out of it. These two gentlemen, they can't. And a lot of people can't. Sports imitate life. That's the only reason we're watching. It's because we see ourselves in these guys. We see ourselves in these guys and we say, wow, I'm kind of like that too. When it comes down to it, sometimes I just can't do the thing that I do well when the stakes are high. That's why I'm going to love this team. Do I want to see them succeed? Yeah, I don't. Maybe that's the toxic part of me. I said this before, but I can't imagine the confetti coming down on these guys. I feel like they would even be confused if confetti, I'm so excited to be a hater. If the confetti was coming down on these guys, I feel like they would be confused. Wow, no, that's for us? We won the final? We were supposed to win the finals. We're like the losers that can't get it done. You know what when your identity becomes so much a part of you as this person who can they do it, and then it actually happens, you lose your identity. You say, oh, I guess I'm just another champion. All right, I got to keep going. Rookie disrespect. Dude, how much disrespect has this rookie class got? Trae Young comes out and says, I don't mean any disrespect by this, but a lot of the guys in the league, we're looking at this whole class as role players. It's so funny when people say, I don't mean any disrespect by this, because they do. Because if they didn't mean any disrespect by it, it would have just came out of their mouth. It wouldn't have even crossed their mind that someone might interpret it as disrespectful. Okay? And let's say they really meant this. They said, hey, yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of guys in the league. We have a conversation every year about the rookie class coming in. Sometimes we're high on them, sometimes we're low. This one we're particularly low. We don't see a lot of talent in this draft. When you're interviewed about it, you don't say that. You don't. If you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. You understand that, especially when if you didn't have anyone in the draft, if your team didn't have their pick that year and you didn't have anyone in the draft, you might not say anything. But you had the number 1 pick in the draft. You meant it as disrespect. You did. You say, yeah, we look at this class, this NBA, all these guys worked incredibly hard to get to this point in their career. We look at them and we say, we imagine they're all going to be role players. The most they're going to amount to is fulfilling a role on a team. Yeah, that's not good. So I'm really rooting for this rookie class. I feel like everyone has really criticized the heck out of them, but I think they should play with a chip on their shoulder. They should play saying, hey, everyone disrespected us. Everyone's looking at Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey creaming themselves. Meanwhile, we're chopped liver. No one's talking about who's going to be the rookie of the year this year. No one cares. So I'd like to see these guys come out and ball. They're saying the highest ceiling guy out there is Alex Sarr as a Jaren Jackson Jr. It's not great. Saying, it reminds me of the Anthony Bennett class. Well, Giannis was in that. So I kind of call it it's like the meme draft. The only people are talking about are Bronny. Okay. He's in the news for a different reason than his skill. Zach Edey, huge. It's more of a conversation of, is this skill set going to translate to the NBA? Not necessarily about him, more about his skill set and the difference between college ball and the NBA. And then Jared McCain, who has tons of... I think that's going to be rough for him. Having so much notoriety on TikTok and having a career like that. And the thing about social media is you are celebrated. You are popular. You derive a lot of your self-worth and your value from your audience on your social media platforms. You do. To a scary point. And if you're deriving your self-worth from that, it's possible that basketball takes a back seat if you begin to lose your passion for it. We'll see what happens with him. This is so fast. I know a lot of people don't want to hear about the Lakers. I know a lot of people don't think they want to hear about the Lakers, but subconsciously they're fascinated by this story. That's me. Dude, LeBron James' son is in the NBA, and anyone who knows anything about basketball, that's not me. I'm not an analyst. I don't watch the game and, oh man, this guy, they should pick him up. He'd play well with him. Oh, he'd be good in the pick. I don't do that. I don't know anything about basketball. I just sit, turn my brain off, and watch a basketball game every night. I don't know anything about rotations, matchups. That's not my thing. But I will tell you, I hear a lot of people say Bronny James is not ready for the NBA. I'm sure you do too. He has a guaranteed contract. And I was listening to JJ Redick on Zach Lowe's podcast, RIP Zach Lowe's ESPN career, saying, we look at the G League as an extension of the Lakers. It's like, well, it isn't. The contracts are different. You can have a guy on a two-way contract, but they are distinctly different teams. You may practice in the same building sometimes, but those are different teams. This is going to be tense, and no one is going to speak the truth about it. Magic Johnson saying, yeah, he should play in the G League. He's not ready. Then you got Jaylen Brown, somebody lip reading that. Jaylen Brown had to be like, you got to be kidding me. How did someone read my lips? That is exactly what I said, but I didn't think anyone would know it. I feel bad for this. He is a person, man. Bronny James is a human being, and for all we know, he wants a career in basketball. And he has a lot of people talking to him that I don't believe have his best interest in heart. And I'm not criticizing his dad. I'm just saying it's hard to see. It can be hard to see what's best for other people. And I think we're forcing the first player to have a son in the league. And the moment's happening inorganically. I think the same thing kind of happened with the LeBron breaking the all-time scoring record. I think we've blown the moment up so much that we want it to mean more than it does. Sure, breaking the all-time scoring record is very important, but I think we did too much. And I think with this, you can tell it's like, yeah, just it should have been more patient. If it happened, it happened. If it happened like Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., when Ken Griffey Jr. calls off his dad, that's a great moment because it was earned. This isn't good. I'm fascinated by this. Here's the thing. Everyone thinks it was JJ got the job because LeBron pulled some strings. That may have happened, but remember, they offered the job to Dan Hurley. Remember that. They were going to offer it to Dan Hurley. And JJ didn't even know about that. It's not like he was in, we think, oh, they probably were having discussions about it, and JJ, he wanted to do his... No, dude, he just applied for the job. And he was on the outs. Dan Hurley turned down the job. They gave it to JJ. He interviewed for the Hornets job. He didn't get it. So it was interesting to hear him on Zach Lowe's podcast say, yeah, I interviewed for jobs, and this opportunity may not come again. People were saying, oh, do you want this job? Do you sure you want your first job to be the Lakers job? You sure about that? He said, I don't know if an opportunity like this is ever going to come by again. I'm getting an opportunity to be the head coach of an NBA team. It kind of humanizes him for a second, because you think of him as kind of hot stuff, right? Has this media empire, calls games for ESPN. And you think, yeah, he probably gets whatever he wants. That's not true. He got offered a head coaching job in the NBA, happened to be the Lakers, and he took it. When you phrase it that way, you're like, oh, he's just a guy that's excited for a job. I'm excited for Doc versus JJ, the tension between there, because apparently Doc said something about him cutting the line. So, hey, if someone offers you a job and you take it, if you have a problem with somebody cutting the line, you talk to the person that gave them the job. JJ Redick did not give himself the job. Why would you even ask him a question about cutting the line? What's he going to say? Oh, no, actually, you know what? I think we should give that job to Sam Cassell because he's been waiting patiently. Like, yeah, Sam Cassell would probably be equally as good of a coach as me. He'd be great too, but they chose me, so I'm taking the job. Yeah. Okay, Rudy needs a redemption, for sure. And I'm excited for it. And I think he's going to get it. Karl Anthony Towns is not on the team anymore. So, he is the center. Naz Reid is a backup. Naz Reid is not a starter. He's going to have to do more things. He's going to be more... You're going to need more of him on defense. Cat was playing defense. And you're going to need some offense from Rudy as well. Sure, you got DiVincenzo back in that deal, and you got Randall, who's going to shoot a lot. I don't know how that's going to work out, but Rudy's going to have to show that. I want him. I'm really rooting for him. I want him to prove that he is a great player. He gets so much crap because he got benched during the Olympics. He said his finger hurt, and then his coach said, no, his finger doesn't really hurt. I got a feeling he's hard to work with and hard to put up with and sort of generally prickly as a human being. I can only imagine. He does not seem to have a lot of friends in the NBA. Am I wrong? It seems like he doesn't have a lot of people on his side. I don't know why that is. So I'm interested in this season. I'm really excited. Then Shaq calling him the worst player in the league. And then I really liked Rudy's response. He's like, after all you've accomplished on the court and off the court, you're going to come at me and pocket watch? That was, yeah. Shaq he has some bad moments, man. He has some really great moments, some real inspirational stuff to me where I've heard him talk and be honest with himself. Some of the stuff that Shaq's parents have talked to him about really impacted me about being honest with people. And I thought that was really cool. But he was talking about him when he left the Celtics, saying I couldn't give it my all. And I had to be honest with the Celtics. I had to turn down that last year. I thought that was cool. So there's a lot of Shaq's, he's a human being, multifaceted, but there's some ugly sides of him, man. Very critical, very mean. And Rudy didn't deserve that. I really like that the Knicks are laying out for it this year. They don't care. They're like, we're doing it. Giving up 4 unprotected first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, that's too much. It's way too much because they also gave away a protected pick and a pick swap. It's way too much. It's such a... I mean, I have to imagine Jalen Brunson said, hey, I'll take my extension now. You can save some money. But you make that trade for Mikal Bridges. And they said, okay, we'll do it. That had to be a part of the agreement, right? It just makes sense because it's way too much. I like Mikal Bridges, but at some point you got to say, we're not giving you that much draft assets. But they did it. And then they gave up a first rounder for Cat, a second rounder for OG. This is the team for the next 4, maybe we'll get 5. if you extend the guys, it's going to be an expensive team. It's going to be a second apron team. This is the squad, and this is the squad that's going to have to get the championship. You're not adding anyone. You're not adding anyone to this team. Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, and Mikal Bridges. It's a great team. Poor Dante DiVincenzo got shipped out. We never got to see the full 4 Villanova guys. I guess it wasn't. I don't know. But Dante DiVincenzo wasn't on that podcast. If there's one guy that's sort of fringe in that crew, it's the big red goo. I'm excited for Klay Thompson's revenge season. And it is interesting. It was over. Steph didn't really seem to fight for him. And I've watched a few interviews. Seemed like Draymond literally said, I kind of wanted him to move on. And he said that not in an interview. He said that on his own podcast. So he recorded that and then published it. It doesn't sound like anyone shed any tears about this. And it makes sense because Klay also has to be happy. He's getting more money. The Warriors offered him $24 million for 2 years. He's on 3 years, 15, 16, 17 million. It's a better contract and you're on a better team. Things went bad. And everything worked out. Did you want those guys to ride off into the sunset? I don't care. They probably did. They thought maybe this could happen. But I'm sure a lot of times, every time any of them were up for an extension or signing a new contract, it crossed their mind that, hey, maybe I'm not going to get what I wanted. And this is really exciting because I think the Dallas Mavericks are definitely underpaying for Klay, right? He's a 17.9 points per game, and he's a 38% shooter. I think the Mavs are going to be really good. And Klay, if it's going to take off-season work, because he wasn't all there the last couple seasons. He wasn't delivering. And if anytime he has motivation to make someone show him they could add a bad bitch, it's this season. It's exciting. It's very exciting. This may not be my favorite necessarily, but this is it. Everyone's talking about this. People disrespect Jason Tatum all the time. He didn't play in 2 Olympic Games. He knows people are talking about it. Also, Jaylen Brown was in that ASAP Ferg music video. I guess he rapped in it. He's getting into music. Watch it. Dude, it's a 6-minute long video and the song's like 3 minutes. The beginning is him listening to a voicemail of a chick breaking up with him, and he's watching news about him on TV about not making the Olympic team. It's so evident that he's chronically online. And I love that he just said it like, yeah, I've watched a lot of news about myself and people talking about me. I'm very well aware of what the conversation is around me. And so much, and does it affect me? Well, I made a music video. But the music video it's a breakup video. But he does find a way to shoehorn basketball news about himself into the music video, showing that he's coming back. He's coming back with vengeance, even though they won the championship. So it's pretty exciting. And Missoula's a thug, dude. He doesn't even want to celebrate the championship. As soon as the confetti came down, he was thinking, 2025 finals. What's the plan? What's the move? All right, we got Kristaps is out. How are we gonna wait until whenever? He's already thinking about it. He doesn't even celebrate. Maybe he gave himself half a second to be like a couple high fives, handshakes, and then he's in the lab. He's on the whiteboard the night they win the championship. Oh, I want to show you something. Jaylen Brown, you thought he was jacked before. Look at that. I wonder if he had someone take that photo for him. I would, if I look like that. Be like, hey, I want you to grab a couple. I'm gonna talk to Tatum. I'm gonna be flexing over here. Take a few of them. I'm gonna do one like this, and then one kind of like puff up my ass. I would. I'm not saying that's a lame thing to do. I would do the same thing. All right, tried to do it before the camera. I need a new video camera. It stops after 30 minutes. But then there's Jason Tatum, who got a tattoo of him kissing the Larry O'Brien trophy on his back. You know what I want to know? You can leave a comment about anything, but if you made it this far in the video, Tell me what you think about his tattoo. Or any of his tattoos. I have no opinion. I just like to know what the people who watch the show think about this tattoo or one of his other tattoos. Are they cool? Are they your style? Like the video if you are thinking about it, you're still watching. Thanks for being here. Be good to your mothers. Eat a corn dog.